Wow. What a wonderful way to enter. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Welcome to the 25th Annual Hooding and Graduation Ceremony of the Appalachian School of Law. My name is David Western, and I am privileged to serve as the Interim President and Dean of the School of Law. Thank you for joining us this afternoon to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of the members of the class of 2024. As we formally begin our ceremony, I invite Mr. Meredith Waugh, class of 2024, to come to the podium and provide our invocation. Mr. Waugh.
Let us pray. Holy Father, grand architect of the universe, we come before you on this day to give thanks for all the great things you've given us, with hearts full of faith, hope, and love. Faith in the hard work and the many hours that we've put into achieving the occasion we're here for today. Hope in that we have done enough to provide a better life for ourselves and our family in the future. And love for all those who are here today to watch us achieve this great achievement. Lord, we're especially thankful for this little place you've given us called the Appalachian School of Law. And its mission, Lord, is a reflection of your message to us to go out and help your fellow man. And Lord, we're thankful for your Son who gave us a way back to you, Father. It's for all the great things you've given us that we give thanks and say, amen.
Thank you, Mr. Waugh. This is truly a joyous occasion. As we gather at the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, we're not just surrounded by the natural beauty, but the collective achievements and future aspirations of the class of 2024. Each of you has traveled a unique and rigorous path to get to this day. Your journey was not just about learning the law, it was about serving others and committing yourself to helping others. Over the past 3 years, you, as the collective class of 2024, have volunteered 6,728.45 hours in community service. Your leadership has led ASL to winning the legal food frenzy by giving the most food to food shelters for the past 3 years, including this year. You crushed moot court tournaments in environmental, family, and space law, and for the first time ever, you competed in an international humanitarian law competition. You are a unique class, and you're the 25th graduating class from the Appalachian School of Law. Listen to that, the 25th graduating class from the Appalachian School of Law. If that doesn't deserve applause, I don't know what does. And you have made us all very proud. Last year, the bar passage rate, the first-time bar passage rate for Virginia from the Appalachian School of Law was around 85%. And I'm super proud of that statistic. Yes, we can be very proud of that statistic. But I know this class. I know these students. And I can assure you that they're going to beat that margin by a very large margin. They are going to exceed that bar passage rate. I am confident about that. Because why? You are just that good. For the past 3 years, your graduates have been challenged to think like lawyers, communicate like lawyers, advocate like lawyers, and negotiate like lawyers. You began that 3-year journey as law students, which initially meant little more than a rigorous orientation followed by your first day of class. But now, at the end of your journey, you're really, truly ready to move mountains. I'm pleased to welcome the deans, faculty, staff, and special guests that we have joining me on the platform today, particularly Justice Mims, who will do our reminder of our professionalism oath, and our commencement speaker, Mr. Kevin Carson. Thank you. The Board of Trustees is composed of dedicated volunteers who provide advice to the administration and serve as the policy-making board for the law school. Would members of the Board of Trustees, do we stand and remain standing for a moment if you're here to be recognized? The Appalachian School of Law has also been served by other hardworking groups of volunteers as well. These include the officers of the Board of Directors and the ASL Alumni Association. I ask that the representatives of that group stand at this time, as you'll hear from our president, Ms. Pebbles Burgess, at the end of our program today. But if you could just recognize the members of our Alumni Association, and thank you for your support. We're very happy to be joined by our law school faculty this afternoon. These are your men. Without the sacrifices of these men and women, we would not be able to have this commencement here today. So we thank you for your service. It's now my privilege to honor and introduce our commencement speaker, Managing Director of the Federal Government Affairs and Associate General Counsel of the Securities Industry and Financial Markets Association, Mr. Kevin Carson. And I'm excited to tell you, please don't hold the applause. I'm about to read to you some of the accomplishments of Mr. Carson, and I'm so excited about this because one of the accomplishments that to me is one of the most important is the representation for you. Mr. Carson is from Pennington Gap, and his family's from this local area, demonstrating just how far you can go when you set your mind to moving mountains, as each and every one of you have. He represents not only Appalachian School of Law and that ethos that you all provide, but he represents how far you can go when you apply that to the practice of law. Mr. Carson, let me tell you some basic facts about him. He serves currently as the Managing Director of the Federal Government Affairs and Associate General Counsel at SIFMA, which is the Securities Industry and Financial Markets Association. Mr. Carson graduated from the University of Virginia with a Bachelor of Arts in International Relations in 2006, and he went on to receive his Juris Doctorate from Rutgers Law School in 2010. Following his graduation from Rutgers Law School, Mr. Carson began an impressive career that included positions in the private legal sector and as a legal support to the United States House of Representatives, where he was a legislative assistant and counsel for Joyce Beatty of the 3rd District of Ohio. He also served as a legislative assistant to the United States Senate, where he was the chief counsel for Senator Joe Manchin. Then he went on and moved on to work at the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, where he was the chief counsel to the Office of Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs. And as I said before, he's now serving as the Managing Director of the Federal Government Affairs and Associate Counsel of SIFMA. We're honored to have Mr. Carson share his vast knowledge and deliver the commencement address to our 2024 graduating class of the Appalachian School of Law. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Carson to today's celebration.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dean, for such a very generous introduction. But overall, it's good to be back in the mountains again. As Dean said, I'm from Pennington Gap, Virginia, not too far from here. I'd like to say, Dean Western, board, faculty members, friends, elected officials, I see you over there, Terry, and friends of the grad, thank you for allowing me to share some words of encouragement and lessons that I've learned along my 14-year journey. I have to admit, when he was talking, I was like, it's been almost 14 years to the day that I was in your shoes. I also think it's important as a dean to recognize the parents, family, and friends of the graduates and thank them for supporting their loved ones through this long, long process, through the thick and thin, when money got tight, when life got real and hard. Because as the saying should say, it takes a village to raise a lawyer. And to the ASL graduate class of 2024, congratulations on your achievements. You have worked tirelessly and incredibly hard to get to this point, and I hope that you take a minute to let the full weight of this accomplishment sink in, or as I would like to say, take some time to let it marinate. But not just marinate on this moment or this day, but the accumulation of the education from undergrad to here and the situations in life that gave you purpose, that made you know who you are and gave you the reason to spend an extra 3 years of school and accumulate a lot of debt. Don't worry, many of us in this room, especially on this stage, we made the same rationalization to take on the debt, so you're not alone. My rationalization to come to law school for me was kind of a mixed bag of fantasy and reality. Like many of you, again, I'm from a small town in Southwest Virginia, and I really believe that this country kid could show up in front of a jury of his peers on a regular basis and defend my client's innocence against a much publicized criminal charge on a day-to-day basis. That's the stuff dreams are made of. Well, maybe it's a little bit of Perry Mason, Law and Order, and To Kill a Mockingbird. But I quickly learned from my family friend that A, not all cases are criminal, and B, most cases never even get to the jury. So this fantasy can't really can't really keep me for 4 years of undergrad and 3 years of law school. I think the more rational reason I went to law school was a much less extravagant event, and actually came from my own house. My father, a non-lawyer, a person who never received a four-year degree, was a lay representative for a community-based healthcare service provider here in the mountains. His job, among other things, was to help coal miners who have been diagnosed with pneumoconiosis, aka black lung, receive benefits and compensation. Occasionally, I would join my father, some days I think I'd be skipping school to do so, but I would join my father as he shuffled around Southwest Virginia to attend administrative black lung hearings. During these hearings, miners, of whom were many of them aging and frail, would explain how they started working in the coal mines at a young age. Many of them were miners and would continue to do so until they could no longer breathe due to the exposure of coal mine dust underground. The same miners would wait year after year as their cases made it very slow through the administration process. When a decision was finally made, many of our community's most valuable members were no longer with us. In those instances, these miners worked all their lives, became disabled because of their occupation, and never saw justice. I always questioned whether these miners truly were given justice that we read about in our books. I wondered if there were more lawyers on the case, could they speed up the process? I even wondered if I became a lawyer, could I help people solve their problems? And that became my answer to why I chose law school. So I ask you, what is your why? Whatever it is, keep it close as you go through studying for the bar, finding a job, and getting your first job. Because life is hard, and you need something to rely on to remind you why you did this. While it's important to reflect on why you started the journey in the first place, it's just as important to remember who you are and who you want to be. And the weird part, you never really know when a situation will present itself in which you will decide who you are and what you stand for. The reality is defining moments of your career and life often come with no advance warning and no instructions. They can arise in scenarios we would have never expected and don't come with the benefit of time. So the question becomes, how do you know when that defining moment is before you? Or better yet, how do you know how to prepare to make the right choice? For me, I had such a moment actually after I started working. I was working a pro bono case right before I went on the Hill. Now, prior to the pro bono case, I was working at a medium-sized law firm in Northern Virginia doing litigation and government contracts. 90% of my practice was civil litigation, arguing about contracts and things of that nature. I think 5% consisted of a couple family law cases, maybe a bankruptcy. In other words, I had no criminal experience and I probably shouldn't be touching the books. But I had a case that interested me. A case came to my attention where there was a young Latino male whose parents were from Honduras who was arrested after riding with his friend in a car that contained drugs. After his arrest, he was charged with possession with the intent to distribute Schedule II controlled substances. Soon after the arrest, the officer informed him that his friend was likely to take a plea. At that point, the young man contacted one of the nonprofit organizations in Northern Virginia, and the case inevitably found its way to me. In all honesty, when I volunteered for this case, I was told that he needed help with his plea agreement. I thought to myself, how hard could this actually be? I saw it in the movies. Much to my surprise, after meeting with this young man, he informed me that he was one of the 800,000 dreamers who were protected under the DACA program. And that means a guilty plea on drug charges would make him ineligible to stay in the U.S. Then he asked me the question that I did not want to hear. He asked, what would your advice be if I was one of your family members? I panicked, because remember, I didn't do criminal law. I didn't know if I could successfully defend or negotiate a plea agreement on his behalf, knowing that if I failed, he will likely be deported to Honduras, where he didn't grow up. So I was at a crossroads. In that moment, part of my brain said, stay the safe route. Follow the assignment you were given, help him negotiate the plea, everybody goes home, and I move on to the next. That safe way, however, guaranteed that he would be deported to Honduras, a country, again, he never grew up in. The problem that I felt was the safe and easy way kind of ran counter to my commitment to provide counsel to this young man when I knew that the prosecutor's evidence was shaky at best. Now, if I can know who doesn't do criminal work, we know that everybody else in the room knew as well. Unlike most of my other cases, this wasn't a breach of contract, this wasn't about debtor's obligations, and there wasn't even a corporation. This is about ensuring the safety of my client's safety in the country that he grew up in. So I did what I learned in law school. I researched and leaned on my community. Remember, I said it's a community that builds a lawyer, to raise a lawyer. My community was in the DC area, my Rutgers alum, and then they suggested that I take another look. Well, I took another look, and I noticed there were some discrepancies in the evidence that they confiscated from the car. After a lot of calls and arguments with the prosecution, and a surprise admission by the driver of the vehicle, my client was released. Now, I did the job I was hired to do. I served my client, and he was able to stay out of jail. Was my work the product of some fine legal skills? Absolutely not. The case didn't alter history, it didn't make any headlines, and we didn't establish any new criminal legal theories. And I'm sure my colleagues in this room have probably practiced more criminal law than I will ever. But the experience demonstrated to me not only the power that attorneys have, but it's the gifts that I have, one person, to make a change, even if in a small way. Who I became at that moment changed the way I saw myself, and inevitably led me to do public service, going to Capitol Hill to work on immigration and criminal justice. Which brings me to my last point. What are you going to do with the diplomas that you received today? When I ask that question, I don't mean to be one of your parents and ask you what you're going to do for a job. I'm asking you, who are you going to be? And what are you going to fight for? Regardless of whether you go into private practice or the corporate world, or whether you become a public defender or prosecutor, or end up doing work in a state or federal legislative body, you are now, or about to be, a lawyer. And that means that you not only have a unique opportunity and ability that non-lawyers don't have, but also the responsibility to foster justice and fairness in this world, to find the truth, to stand up for those who are voiceless, to hold our country to the promise of justice for all. We know that most people in this room care deeply about the rule of law and our Constitution and the principles and freedoms which our country are based. And they're counting on us as lawyers to help to achieve those. You know, I think, and I know he's not here today, I think Joe Wolf answered that call local lawyer, I'm sure you guys know who he is, when he envisioned putting a law school deep in the mountains of Southwest Virginia, I think you can look around and see that he accomplished that goal because you're here. Based on who you are and what you want to be, you're going to have to decide for yourself and what you believe is worth fighting for, or how you're going to use your law degree to breathe life and force into the fundamental American identity of liberty, justice, and fairness. And believe me, you don't have to go that far to find something to fight for. Here in this region, there are issues of affordable housing, homelessness, substance abuse, and clean waters. Those need lawyers. On the national level, we have lingering issues on immigration, election security, rising health care costs, racism, anti-Semitism, you name it. Those need lawyers. I mean, we can even go on an international level. We have a growing conflict in the Middle East, war in Eastern Europe, and global market disruptions. Those all need lawyers. As you can see, regardless of the side political spectrum you are, we all have major problems in our society that need work that you guys can offer help with now and in the future. My only ask is that you study hard for the bar exam, you work hard to build that career that you want, and then when you get high on that mountaintop of where you want to be, you tell your colleagues you got your legal education here in the mountains of Southwest Virginia. Thank you again for your privilege for sharing in your success today. Congratulations to the ASL class of 2024, and of course, happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was terrific. I agree. This is something you should be proud of. For receiving your degree in the mountains of Appalachia, this is wonderful. This is so symbolic in so many different ways of what kind of things you can do and things you can accomplish. So thank you, Mr. Carson, for your powerful remarks. At this time, I just wanted to introduce our valedictory speaker. The Appalachian School of Law and their student body is enriched with students from many parts of the country. And central to our mission is providing educational opportunities to students from our region. So I'm very proud to have the opportunity to introduce a student that is also, in very many ways, represents ASL and what it's all about. Our valedictory speaker, Mr. Sean Smith, is a native of Oakboro, North Carolina, but he comes to ASL from Houston, Texas, where he spent the last 5 years. He attended Piper University, where he received a bachelor's degree in both psychology and criminal justice. Mr. Smith later completed his master's in business administration from Louisiana State University, Shreveport, while working full-time for the United States Department of Veteran Affairs. Mr. Smith is currently employed by the Global Impact Initiative, a Texas-headquartered and internationally operating nonprofit, where he has served as the Vice President of Operations since 2020. Prior to his current role, he has served as a probation and parole officer, and also as in the Serious Risk Group Intelligence Officer for the state of North Carolina. He's also worked as an equal opportunity specialist with the United States Department of Veteran Affairs. Most importantly, Mr. Sean Smith has been my research assistant for the past 2 years, so I think that's probably the most difficult job he's had to perform. In 2021, Mr. Smith accepted a scholarship to attend the Appalachian School of Law, but what really truly called him to come to ASL was the mission of impacting a community and helping those in need. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sean Smith to the podium.
Thank you, Dean Western. All right. Well, I guess before I get started, full disclosure, if my face starts turning various shades of red, everything is okay, no medical emergency. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed faculty, our beloved family and friends, and of course, my fellow survivors of case law and caffeine overload. Today, we celebrate our great escape from the clutches of law school textbooks and into the rest of the world. Today is not just a testament to our hard-earned ability to digest complex legal doctrines but also the day to acknowledge our newfound skills in functioning on minimal sleep and maximum coffee. Together, we've conquered the Socratic method, outwitted the curve, and still managed to maintain our sanity. Well, in most part, but in all fairness, I lost mine a long time ago. Our journey through law school at ASL was less of a straight path and more of an obstacle course, where each semester brought into new trials, from deciphering language of the law to trying to fit laptop chargers into those tables at the library. It's really, the struggle's real sometimes. We owe a huge debt of gratitude to our professors who challenged us each and every step, ensuring we learn not just how to think like lawyers, but how to endure like them too. Thank you for pushing us to our limits, and then showing us we really didn't have the limits that we thought we did. A special thanks to families and friends, our unofficial support staff. You've been our therapists when we didn't pay for it. The motivational speakers who wouldn't let us give up, and our personal cheering squad at every minor victory. Thank you for all the care packages, the late night pep talks, and pretending to understand what we were talking about when we called you at like 9 o'clock at night talking about civil procedures or some other class that we were trying to jump through. To my fellow graduates, as we step into this world armed with our new degrees, let's take the energy of those moot court competitions that some of you went through and tackle those injustices out there. Let's strive to be the lawyers who are as passionate about making a difference as we are about making partner one day. And remember, if you ever feel in over your head, just think back to that first year of law school. If we can make it through that, we can make it through just about anything. Let's be honest, our legal careers might not always be as glamorous as they look like on television, but they promised us that it would be rewarding. Here's to finding out how rewarding that it can be. So as we go forth with our briefcases and our ideals, let's aim high. After all, we've been trained by the best, tested by the toughest, and caffeinated by the strongest. We're ready for anything. Congratulations, class of 2024. Let's go make the world a better, more just place. But first, let's walk across this stage. Let's take some pictures. Then let's have one heck of a celebration before we have to wake up on Monday morning, ready for those student loan repayment requests to come in. Thank you, everyone. Godspeed.
I thought you were going to go home right after this and start studying for the bar, you know. Thank you for the wonderful remarks, Mr. Smith. It's now my pleasure to call upon Dean Laura Wilson. She's the Chief Academic Officer of the Appalachian School of Law. She will read the names of the class of 2024 and present the graduates for hooding by Dean Shelley James, the Dean of Students. Some graduates will be hooded by family members who are also lawyers or by legal mentors who hold the degree of Juris Doctorate.
Caitlin Brooke Adkins. Miss Adkins is being hooded by her friend and mentor, Robin Sisko, a graduate of the Appalachian School of Law. Chase Thomas Arrington. Marshall Gideon Arrington. Andrew Bailey. Diana Nicole Bailey. Deshawn Dominic Barrett. Patrick Stephen Connolly. Mr. Connolly is being hooded by his father, Steve Connolly, a graduate of the West Virginia University College of Law. Taylor Marie Curry. Brittany Danae Dagan. Whitney Linwood Leslie Darby. Ms. Darby is being hooded by her friend and mentor, Ann Charles Moreau, a graduate of the Appalachian School of Law. Makara Yvonne Dye. Morgan Elizabeth Emmenheiser. Megan Deanna Endicott. Ms. Endicott is being hooded by her friend and mentor, Donna Caitlin Snuffer, a graduate of the Appalachian School of Law. Irina Charisse Floyd. Miss Floyd is being hooded by her mentor, William G. Yarborough III, a graduate of the University of South Carolina, Joseph F. Rice School of Law. Ashley Gates. Kelsey Corin Hall. Ms. Hall is being hooded by her father, Robert Cord Hall, a graduate of the University of Virginia School of Law. Adriana Marie Avena Hodges. Ms. Hodges is being hooded by her fiancé, Brandon James Johnson, a graduate of the Appalachian School of Law. Joshua Cornelius Howell. Jonathan Harrison Hummer. Mr. Hummer is being hooded by his mentor, Roy M. Jesse, a graduate of the University of Virginia School of Law. Hunter Wayne Keel. Holly Kennedy. Beth Ann Kiker. Brennan Cade Kimbler. Mr. Kimbler is being hooded by his godfather, Roy M. Jesse, a graduate of the University of Virginia School of Law. Pilar M. Lule Menge. Hannah Mackenzie Much. Connor Ulrich. James Matthew Penny, Jr. William Allen Perkins IV. Lorenzo Rosario Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno is being hooded by his mother, Lorraine Ramuno, a graduate of the Widener University, Delaware Law School. James R. Ratliff. Mr. Ratliff is being hooded by his mentor, Bobby J. Erickson, a graduate of the Appalachian School of Law. Olivia Grace Shear. Ms. Shear is being hooded by her friend and mentor, Donna Caitlin Snuffer, a graduate of the Appalachian School of Law. Hunter James Shockey. Mr. Shockey is being hooded by his stepfather, David Moy, a graduate of the Ohio Northern University Pettit College of Law. Sean Douglas Smith. Tyler Chase Starnes. Mr. Starnes is being hooded by his mentor, Terry G. Kilgore, a graduate of William and Mary Law School. Lauren Elizabeth May Stewart. Ms. Stewart is being hooded by her friend and mentor, Deanna Marcus, a graduate of the Appalachian School of Law. Ray Summer Taylor. Ms. Taylor is being hooded by her friend and mentor, DeEmpress Graves, a graduate of the Appalachian School of Law. Meredith Dawn Wall. Dale Edward Wolf II. Mr. Wolf is being hooded by his father, Thomas Wolf, a graduate of Vanderbilt University Law School. Dean Western, these candidates have completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor. Upon the recommendation and approval of the faculty, I present them to you for the conferral of that degree.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, and with the approval of the faculty, I confer upon each of you the degree of Juris Doctor upon the completion of the requirements with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities are pertaining thereto. Congratulations, class of 2024. You are now alumni. Well, congratulations. I'm pleased to welcome to the podium Pebbles Burgess, who will issue the Alumni Challenge for the graduating class of 2024. To give you some background about Ms. Pebbles Burgess, she's the president of the Alumni Association for the Appalachian College of Law, or School of Law, and she was a 2004 graduate from the University of Virginia with a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering and minors in Aerospace and Environmental Engineering. She's a 2007 graduate of the Appalachian School of Law, and during her time at ASL, she was a member of the ASL mock trial team for all 3 years and served as a 3L senator. She joined a local law firm prior to passing the bar in October of 2007 and served clients over 8 years across many areas of the law, including criminal, domestic, corporate, and commercial litigation. In the summer of 2015, Pebbles joined the Buchanan County Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, where she served as the Chief Deputy Commonwealth's Attorney for Buchanan County, Virginia. In the fall of 2023, she had the opportunity to expand her service in her current role as the Senior Assistant Attorney General for the state of Virginia. Ms. Burgess, thank you for this challenge.
Thank you, Dean Western. I think I just felt the collective sigh of this audience of how long is this going to take? In class of 2024, this is your first practical lesson. When you have such a wonderful, captive audience, you never give the lawyer a microphone. But first, I'm going to do a little business. It is my honor to welcome the class of 2024 to the Appalachian School of Law Alumni Association. Second piece of business, Mr. Sean Smith, if you could please make your way back to the stage one more time. It is tradition for the Appalachian School of Law Alumni Association to bestow upon each graduating class's valedictorian their first well-earned fee. This year, the honor goes to Mr. Sean Smith. And now the challenge. As I was thinking about what the challenge was going to be for this year's graduating class, I started thinking about all of the commencement speeches that we all see on TV, sometimes in the news, TikTok now, and we hear like all the cliches out there, right? Go forth and do good. Make sure you protect the little guy. Stay true to yourself. Stay true to others. Follow your own path. Money doesn't always equal happiness. Wait a second. We're going to come back to that one, okay? But I thought to myself, why would I want to challenge you all to do something that I know you're already going to do? And as I continued to think about it, there was this phrase that kept sticking in my head, and it haunts me because I've experienced it time and time again throughout my practice, especially when I was a new lawyer. And when you hear it, I sincerely hope you have the same reaction that I did. But before I tell you what it is, I'm going to tell you where you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it first and foremost from your opposing counsel. You're going to hear it from clerks. You're going to hear it from judges, your coworkers, maybe a mentor, pretty much anybody you're going to encounter in your practice, you're going to hear this phrase. When are you going to hear it? You're going to hear it at one of your most proud moments, right? You've worked hard, you've done the research, countless hours of writing and memoranda, you're waiting to deliver your motion, your oral argument, you're sitting behind counsel table ready for battle. So what in the world could this phrase possibly be? And it's going to be delivered by one of these folks, and it usually comes with a furrowed brow and a tilt of the head, and they're going to look at you and they're going to say, "That's not the way we do things around here." So while you think about that, I'm going to tell you a little story about the first time I heard that phrase in my early career. I was a couple of weeks out of a bar license, and I was so proud to sign up for the court-appointed counsel list, that's indigent defense. And I had gotten my very first case, and it was a driving under the influence charge, which is a misdemeanor. It was in a neighboring county. And of course, for those of you all that don't know where DUIs are tried in the state of Virginia, it's in the General District Court, the traffic court, the lowest level of the court that there's out there. And I had worked so hard in preparing my defense for this DUI. And one of my mentors had looked over my work, and he read it through it, and he looked at me and he said, "You know, I think that some of these Virginia DUI laws are unconstitutional, and I think you should be the person to challenge it." Now, for those of y'all that don't understand how ridiculous of a notion that is, you will. But guess what? In the early days of my practice, I heard that phrase and I thought, you know what? This is it. This is my moment. I'm going to do this and I'm going to win. And I spent all kinds of hours and time drafting a motion in the General District Court of a neighboring county. All names have been left out to protect the innocent, right? And accompanying a 34-page brief. And I was so proud of my work, I drove it to this county. I walked it into the clerk's office because I wanted to make sure that my brilliance, or so I thought, was going to make it to the place where it was destined, right in that court file. I handed it to the clerk. She looked at it. She flipped through all the pages I gave her, and she looked at me and she said, we don't do this around here. And, of course, I froze. I wasn't sure exactly what to do, but I smiled and I said, I'm sorry, can you just please accept my pleading? And I ran as fast as I could before she gave it back to me. But it didn't stop there. Of course, I sent my copy to the prosecutor that was handling that case, and I got a phone call from him. "Pebbles, what are you doing? We don't do this around here." Didn't stop there. I even got invited into judges' chambers. Set me down. Judge looked at me. He's like, "Yeah, I don't think we do this around here." And to all those people, I smiled. Well, actually, I probably didn't smile. But I politely asked them to please accept my motion as filed and rule on it accordingly. But somewhere deep down in my soul, I wanted to ask and maybe scream, can somebody please point me to the rule, to the statute, to the case, or the body of law that talks about this? That's not the way we do things around here. And spoiler alert, it doesn't exist. So why did this bother me so bad, and I encourage you to adopt my feelings, is because the way we've always done it isn't always the best practice. It's not always efficient. And in some cases, it's no longer legally correct. So my challenge to you is to not be persuaded by this attitude of complacency. Do the work. Be confident in your skills. Second guess yourself just enough to keep yourself on your toes. And by doing this, you'll challenge yourself. You'll challenge the other people in your local bars. And eventually, that's how we challenge the law. Now, we hear a lot of quotes about the law while we're in law school, and the one that always sticks to me is the one that you hear in con law, where there is an idea that the Constitution is a living, breathing document. Well, I'm here to tell you that the law breathes and lives, and it does so because of those of us that practice in it. And it gets pushed by those that are brave enough to challenge it. So don't become complacent in your practice. Don't allow your fellow attorneys to stagnate. It is this unified attempt to push each other that we push the bounds of the law and push it into a modern era to meet modern demands. So as I reflect on what I wanted to say to you today, we circle back around to all the cliches, right? Be kind, give back to your community, be confident, believe in yourself, stand up for what's right and moral. And can money buy happiness? Maybe. But I'll leave you with the words of the infamous Van Halen frontman David Lee Roth. Money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a yacht big enough to pull up alongside it. Congratulations, class of 2024. Make us proud.
Thank you, Ms. Pels-Burgess. That is incredible and a great introduction to the legacy that you will begin as alumni of the Appalachian School of Law. We are incredibly impressed and thankful for all the accomplishments that each of you have done so far, and we look forward to those accomplishments that you will bring forward as alumni of our esteemed school. At this time, I'm so glad that Ms. Burgess talked about that's not the way we do things. As the 25th graduating class of the Appalachian School of Law, you are about to embark on the first ever tradition that's going to be begun here at Appalachian School of Law. As you recall, when you first started as a 1L, you had Justice Mims join us for a professionalism oath where he had you swear in as professionals in the state of the practice of the law. From the very first day that you go to law school, we believe that our students are professionals held to the same standard as attorneys when they come in to practice law. And each one of these graduates that you see before you today took upon them this oath, this professionalism oath as a 1L. And so the very last speaker that we have today, we have the Honorable Justice William Mims to give us a reminder of that oath that you took upon yourself that first time that you began as a 1L. So today I'd like to introduce Justice Mims. He's a former Senior Justice of the Supreme Court of Virginia, a former member of the Virginia Assembly and Attorney General of Virginia. And he's the second person in Virginia history to serve in these three offices. Justice Mims presently lectures and does a director of the pre-law program at Christopher Newport University. He was born in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and graduated from Harrisonburg High School. Justice Mims graduated from the College of William and Mary, where he was the student body president. He's a member of the Phi Eta Sigma, Phi Alpha Theta, and Omnicom Delta Kappa honorary societies. His law degrees are from George Washington University for his Juris Doctorate and Georgetown for his LLM. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Justice Mims to remind you of your professionalism oath. Thank you, Justice Mims.
Thank you, Dean Western. I very much appreciate that introduction. Kevin, thank you for a great talk. I first met Kevin 14 years ago when he was a clerk for the Virginia Supreme Court. We knew he would be a success. We did not realize it would only take a hot minute for him to rise to the upper echelons of a complex aspect of the law. Delegate Kilgore, thank you also for being here, for your commitment to this law school and to this entire region and this state. Graduates, congratulations. I recognize that the few minutes that I will speak and the benediction are all that lies between you and studying for the bar, so I'll be short. I'm going to repeat part of your professionalism oath. I acknowledge the privileges granted by society to the legal profession and its responsibilities. I promise to uphold the highest standards of honesty and ethical practice. I promise to embrace the principles of civility and professionalism throughout my professional life. I understand the unique role and responsibility of lawyers in contributing to the community. I will conduct myself with dignity, and I will respect the dignity of others in my professional and personal life. I will conduct myself with integrity. These were the very first words you spoke on your first day in law school, and I charge you to carry them with you as you leave this law school. I'm going to focus on merely two of those concepts, honesty and civility, two that are amazingly important to what you will be doing. Let's look at honesty first. Some may ask, why does this have to be specifically stated? Isn't that something that all lawyers ought to do? Perhaps, but we do need to be reminded. We may be the only people who believe it is virtuous to be able to argue with passion either side of the same issue. Many in public don't understand how you can represent someone who appears to be guilty of a crime. But if lawyers are doing their job correctly, there will be some people who committed criminal acts and are not convicted. It's a troubling paradox to non-lawyers, but it's fundamental to our Constitution. It's part of your oath. Now, there are limits that can't be crossed in this regard, and that's where honesty is needed. For example, the ethics rules do not allow you to ask your client a question as a witness if you know they intend to lie in response. But the requirements of honesty go beyond the major issues that you may see in the criminal law. Some of the things that we are tempted to lie about are called white lies, little things. The client calls and you instruct your assistant, tell them I'm not here. A client asks for a progress report and you say the work is almost finished, when in reality you have not started. Now, in all candor, we all sometimes, occasionally, tell such untruths. It's part of our imperfect human nature. But we must be on guard, knowing that we are tempted to shade the truth or not be fully honest, and we must guard against that as lawyers. Because we are imperfect people, we will make mistakes, and sometimes our mistakes can potentially be malpractice. I want to tell a story on myself about that sort of a mistake. There have been two occasions when I've made mistakes that could have been malpractice. I was forced to look in the mirror and decide to acknowledge whether I would acknowledge those mistakes to my client. And it was hard. On one of those occasions, I made a mathematical error in a settlement agreement. I'm not particularly good at math. It was a complex case with complex figures, and I realized that my client received $10,000 less than it should have. It would have been easy to ignore that. My client may never have known. And if the client did notice it, I could have told one of those lies and said that I hadn't realized the mistake. I was very tempted to not mention it to my client. I was a small-town lawyer in a 3-person practice, and $10,000 was and is a lot of money. I struggled, but at the end of the day, I decided I had to tell. I had to admit the mistake. I had to make it right. I told my client, and I said, there's more than $10,000 owed to me right now in fees. You can reduce the amount that you pay me by $10,000. I was really hoping my client would say, don't worry about it. But he didn't. He said, we will take the $10,000 from your fee. But let me tell you, I represented that client for many years thereafter. perhaps one reason that client came back time and time again was because of that honesty. And I don't want you to pat me on the back. It was not easy. I really, really struggled. What I'm saying is that at one time or another in the practice of law, we all have a dark night of the soul. We all have a night when we lie awake and we wrestle with whether to do the right thing. Do it. It will serve you well in this profession. There is a saying that trees grow silently, but they fall with a loud crash. You are beginning to grow today as a lawyer. You can become strong in this profession. There are some lawyers who fall with a loud crash, but I'm confident that if you have an ethic of honesty, you will not be one of them. The other facet of professionalism that I want to talk about is civility. We are supposed to be zealous advocates for our clients, but our zeal must never cross the line into incivility. Civility requires that we treat our clients, our colleagues, and even our adversaries with respect. We should treat with courtesy even those who are discourteous to us. And now I have to tell another story on myself to illustrate this point. Years ago, I was in a deposition with an attorney whose client was lying. In hindsight, I'm certain that this opposing attorney did not realize that her client was lying. But I had spent many hours preparing, and I knew. I got frustrated. I threw my papers down on the table, and I shouted. The other attorney quite properly said, "I am ending this deposition. We're not going to put up with that." She and her client got up and left the room. Now, there are times when we will all lose our temper and we will need to apologize. I do want to give a piece of advice. Don't do it during a deposition. It's being recorded. I knew what I had done was wrong. I also knew that this attorney could go into court and seek sanctions against me. Sometimes we correct a wrong because it's the right thing to do. And other times, we do it out of fear. Or in that case with me, both. I went to her office the next morning and I said, "I'm sorry. I have no excuse for the way I behaved." Fortunately for me, she showed me mercy. She treated me with the civility and respect that I had not shown for her or the law the day before. She said, "All of us have bad days. None of us should be judged by our worst day." Civility is the bedrock of our profession. It defines our common cause in advancing the law. In public discourse today, there is a coarseness, a lack of civility at many levels. As a lawyer and as an ASL graduate, you can help to restore that virtue. We are a noble profession. We are not given credit for that by many people, but our role is essential to our communities, our government, and our culture. You are the ones who can maintain our culture, our government, our entire society with the role that you play. This is my charge to you. Indeed, move mountains. I know you will. Do it with professionalism, honesty, and civility. Congratulations. God bless.
Thank you, Justice Mims. That was fantastic. This is the ASL class of 2024. Make us proud. The program will conclude with our benediction offered by Professor Don Figueres. Immediately following the benediction, the recessional will begin, and the platform party will lead the recessional. This will be followed by the faculty and lastly, the class of 2024. We ask that the audience remain standing at their seats during the recessional. And graduates, as you process out, we will be having a line over the side here as we will recession to that side over there. And we ask that you have this opportunity to be greeted by a handshake, this time by your professional peers, your loving faculty, and your administration. And lastly, tonight, for everyone here, we remind you that we will be having a farewell celebration at the School of Law, and I've been promised that it'll be a memorable send-off. The doors open at 6:30 p.m., and we look forward to seeing you there. I now ask Professor Don Figueres to deliver our benediction.
Thank you, Dean Western. On this your day of graduation, may God's blessings rest upon you. May love light up your life. May hope spring from your hearts as you look towards tomorrow. May your days be filled with great adventures and fulfilling work. Now go forth into the world as strong leaders, guiding with intelligence and kindness, as inspired thinkers, creatively seeking positive change, and as dedicated citizens and lawyers, ready to work for justice and the rule of law.